All right, so today we are diving deep into Sword of Justice, this indie comic, and it's got this really cool mix of futuristic tech and ancient sorcery all kind of mashed up together.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating blend of genres, right? You've got these sleek spaceships and advanced technology alongside these ancient rituals and mystical artifacts.
Yeah, and the art is incredible. Like just
Huh.
flipping through these panels, it's like a visual feast. Like those demonic creatures,
Yeah.
those are insane.
The details is
Yeah.
amazing. And that contrast you mentioned really makes it pop. You've got these dark, gritty scenes juxtaposed with these vibrant bursts of magic and energy.
Yeah, it creates a real sense of a world in flux, like it's caught
Mhm.
between these different forces.
Right. And speaking of forces, we've got to talk about Saburo. I mean, come on. You first encounter him as just a skull, right? A skull wearing a crown sitting on a throne of molten rock. It's such a striking image.
It's giving me some serious, like, fallen angel vibes, like he was once something more?
Exactly. And that crown on his skull, it hints at a past rulership, a fall from grace. And then when he's summoned back, it's like all that power and darkness is unleashed.
Bring back from the depths your loyal servant, Saburo.
Chills, right? It's like this declaration. This isn't just some random bad guy. This is a major player.
And then we've got Brenna, who seems to be leading the charge against him. There's this line that really stood out to me. It's when she's talking about Saburo and she says, "We have to go after him or this war will never end." I mean, talk about high stakes.
Right. She's got this weight on her shoulders, this sense of responsibility. And what's interesting is she's not just fighting Saburo, she's also challenging her own father for control of this secret egg, whatever that is.
Yeah, it seems like this egg is super important, like maybe the key to ending the war.
Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that both Brenna and her father want it suggests it holds some kind of immense power.
So we've got a war on the brink of destroying everything, a power struggle over this mysterious artifact, and then you've got these two figures, Saburo and Brenna, each with their own motivations and desires. It's like Spotty is setting up this really intricate game of chess.
And we're just pawns in it, trying to figure out the rules as we go.
And we're only just getting started. It's wild to think about, right? Like all this is coming from someone's imagination. Like
Yeah.
there's a real person behind all this amazing art and storytelling.
Absolutely. And I think it's always fascinating to learn about the artists behind the work,
Yeah.
their backgrounds, their inspirations. It adds another layer to the whole experience.
For sure. And Silvio Spotty, the guy who created Sword of Justice, he's got a pretty interesting story himself. I mean, we're not talking about some dude doodling in his basement here.
Right. This is a guy with serious artistic chops. He graduated from FMU/Fame University in Brazil, and he's been working professionally in comics since like 1992.
Yeah, he's been at it for over 30 years. And get this, he started out working on Brazilian Street Fighter comics. Can you imagine that?
Wow. Talk about a range. From Street Fighter to inking for DC and Disney, that's
Well,
incredible.
I know, right? It's like he's worked on everything. He's done Donald Duck, Green Lantern, you name it. And now he's created this whole epic world of Sword of Justice.
It makes you wonder how all those different experiences have influenced his work. Like, what little bits of Donald Duck or Green Lantern might be hidden in those panels.
Oh, totally. And the coolest part is people are really responding to Sword of Justice. I mean, this comic has had multiple successful Kickstarter campaigns.
Which is huge in the world of indie comics.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
It means he's not only creating something awesome, but he's also building a community around it.
Yeah, and getting that Project We Love badge from Kickstarter, that's not easy. That's like a seal of approval from the comic book gods.
Exactly. It means people are paying attention. They see the passion and the potential in Spotty's work.
So we have this incredibly talented artist with this diverse background and global reach who decides to pour his heart and soul into this independent comic. It makes you think, right, like how much of his own life, his own experiences are woven into the fabric of Sword of Justice.
It's a great question. And I think it leads us perfectly into talking about the larger themes that we see playing out in the story.
Because when you look past all the cool fights and magic and stuff, there's a lot more going on under the surface.
Oh, absolutely. There's this whole exploration of power, ambition, destiny. Like
Yeah.
those are some big ideas he's grappling with.
You know, one of the things that really struck me about Sword of Justice is how it handles this whole idea of power. Like, it's everywhere in this world, but it's not just about who's got the biggest sword or the coolest magic spell.
Right? It's about what that power does to people, how it shapes them, corrupts them. You see that with Saburo, right? Like, this guy was literally brought back from the dead. He's got the second chance, and all he can think about is reclaiming his former glory.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate cautionary tale, right? Like,
Yeah.
be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. And then you've got Brenna, who's also fighting for power, but it's different.
Totally. She's not interested in ruling for ruling's sake.
Hmm.
She wants to use her power to end the war, to create a better future for her people. Remember that line where she's like, though I'm taking this place from the hands of my father by force, I don't seek power?
Yeah, that line gives me chills every time I read it. It's like she understands the true cost of power and she's willing to do whatever it takes to break the cycle of violence.
And it makes you wonder if true leadership isn't about seeking power, but about knowing when to relinquish it.
That's deep, man. And it's so relevant to what's going on in the world today, right? Like, we see it all the time. People clinging to power, even when it's clear that it's destroying them and everything around them.
And Sword of Justice doesn't shy away from those hard truths.
Hmm.
Remember that line about dark souls navigate the twilight of the tempest, shaking and jiggling and struggling to stay afoot, seeking power that changes hands more swiftly than the blink of an eye?
Oh, yeah, man, that one's a mouthful. But it speaks to the fleeting nature of power, right? Like, you can spend your whole life chasing it and it can disappear in an instant.
It's like trying to hold on to smoke. It's just going to slip through your fingers.
Mm-hmm. Spot on. And it's not just power that's constantly shifting and changing in Sword of Justice. It's the whole world. Like, there's this constant theme of destruction and rebirth.
Absolutely. You see it in the imagery of fire and the devastation of the war, but you also see it in Seburo's resurrection. Like, even death isn't the end in this world.
It's like Spotty saying that change is inevitable, and sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches, you know? Embrace the chaos.
And there's something really beautiful about that idea, don't you think? Like, even in the darkest of times, there's always hope for something new to emerge.
For sure. And speaking of new beginnings, we've got to give props to Spotty for creating something so unique and original with Sword of Justice. I mean, this isn't just another superhero story.
Right. He's drawing on his decades of experience working in comics, but he's also forging his own path. He's not afraid to experiment, to push boundaries.
And that's what makes this comic so exciting to me. It's familiar, but it's also completely fresh and unexpected.
It's like he's taken all these classic tropes and archetypes and given them his own spin.
Exactly. And that's what makes Sword of Justice more than just a comic book. It's a work of art. It's a story that stays with you long after you've finished reading it.
It makes you think.
Yeah.
It makes you feel. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about power and heroism and destiny.
Well said. So if you're looking for a comic that's going to blow your mind and leave you wanting more, then you need to check out Sword of Justice. You won't be disappointed. And with that said, we're going to wrap things up here. But before we go, we want to hear from you. What do you think about Spotty's take on these classic themes? Hit us up on social media and let us know. And until next time, keep exploring those worlds of imagination because you never know what incredible stories you might find.